your calls, your input. This is For the Record. And now, your host, Orit Connor.
And welcome to For the Record. I'm your host, Orit Connor. And in the event that you may have forgotten about me, I'm still the same person, probably 10, 12 pounds lighter. Not a bad thing, but fish poisoning is not a good way to lose weight. I can recommend other ways of losing it besides fish poisoning. But I'm back again, thankful to be back. I want to thank Mrs. Donna Bush for filling in for me during the period of my absence, and all of the staff at Radio Cayman who also assisted, and everyone who made calls to me, inquired about my health, came and visited me. I want to thank everyone, and of course, most of all, I want to thank the Almighty God for bringing me through this. It's a sorry, it's a huge struggle, not necessarily life-threatening, but you have to have mental and physical capacity to withstand the pains that accompany fish poisoning. And since that was my second time having it, it seems as if the second time around is actually worse than the first time around in some cases. So I want to thank everyone, for their prayers and their thoughts and their good wishes. Again, thanks to Ms. Donna Bush for filling in so ably for me. And, we couldn't seek a better person who's, a media person herself and a former TV anchor. So I want to thank everyone for that. So I want to thank you for listening in, whether you're here in the Cayman Islands or if you're listening overseas via the web. And I know that there are many of you who are listening overseas. We know we have number one in the BRAC, and I mentioned a few weeks ago, as well, other persons in the BRAC who listen in. Of course, For the Record is a show that is produced specifically, for you, to keep you abreast of what's happening, not only in the Cayman Islands, but also regionally and internationally. And it's to keep you abreast of all that is happening. Again, I remind you that I'm your host, Orit Connor. We are due to have in the studio with us this morning the Councillor Hugh, who is the counselor in the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. So we hope to have him in the studio at some point in time this morning as well to discuss, specifically to discuss Pirates Week activities. Of course, we'll probably get on to more topics as well, but basically to discuss those. I want to remind you that our phone lines are always open, and there's always someone waiting to take your call, usually in the form of Susan, and we welcome your calls, as well. We also want to thank you for allowing For the Record into your homes, into your automobiles while you're driving, into your offices, those of you who are privileged to listen to radio and specifically For the Record in your offices. We want to thank you for allowing us in, and we will continue to provide you with relevant information. We will continue to provide you with access to our legislators, our policymakers, and also to those persons who implement policy as well. I remind you that we have a toll-free number, which is 1-800-534-8255. You can also call us on 949-8037 or 949-6990. And to those of you who don't like talking on the telephone, you can certainly email us at fortherecord, one word, fortherecord at candw.ky. We're going to take a short break, throw it back to Susan, and we will be back shortly again. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. I'm your host, Orit Connor, and we're expecting our guest, Councillor Joey Hugh, to be with us shortly. I also want to remind you that For the Record is brought to you by the Auto Spa on Godfrey Nixon Way. You can stop by Radio Cayman or the Auto Spa and ask for your $5 savings coupon for your next full service wash. I also want to remind you that the Auto Spa has also introduced valet service. That means that your vehicle will be picked up from your place of work or home, I would imagine as well, delivered back to you within the hour, and you get a full service valet service. The service is insured, so you need not worry about your vehicle. The service is also restricted to the downtown Georgetown area, the Cayman Bay area, and 7 Mile Beach area as well. So we want to thank the Auto Spa for being, our sponsors. Let's take a look at the headlines. For those of you who have not yet had the opportunity to look at the newspapers, either online or a hard copy, Marin Pentney named YCLA winner. YCLA is the Young Caymanian Leadership Award, and she is the winner this year. She is an accountant with Price Waterhouse Coopers, and she is her 2014 winner. And what does she say about her? Say that she felt excited, such an amazing feeling. I just feel honored to be with the amazing finalists, and I will give you the name of the other finalists that were involved. She says that she wants to work with the local youth to believe in themselves and do what they believe in, and we certainly need that. We certainly need mentorships. We need our young people to have role models to look up to, and the role model doesn't necessarily have to be someone who is 20 or 30 years your elder. It can also be, your peer, someone, within your age group who you can look at and you can sort of try to fashion your life, your lifestyle, fashion your activities around what they do, as well. So I want to congratulate Ms. Marin Pentney for her award, and based on what she said, we can expect her during her tenure, her 1-year tenure, to do lots, in particular concentrating on our youth. Let's look at the Caymanian Compass again. Flashback, and they give you a quick update of the stories and events that they're following. They're looking at PR applications, and the 25th of October was the 1-year anniversary of the passage of the revamped immigration law. They will be looking at that. They will be looking at the destroyed coral, and you heard me talk about that here on For the Record, as well. And I applauded the efforts of the local dive industry to do their part in rehabilitating the reef project. You also heard me talk about the responsibility of the cruise lines, the responsibilities of the agents here in the Cayman Islands, as well as the Port Authority. And they all need to step up to the plate, if they have not done so, to do their part in assisting. And if there are monetary issues involved, they need to dig deep into their pockets and deal with that as well. The Compass is also looking at the Lifers Bill, and we saw that passed through the Legislative Assembly just recently. And during the course of this week, we hope to have on For the Record the Honorable Premier to talk about the past proceedings in the Legislative Assembly, what has taken place there. But the Lifers Bill has to do with placing a tariff on life. We are required, like most countries, to place a number on a life sentence. So life does not necessarily mean life. It can be, in some instances, we see in the UK where it may be 12, 15 years. It can be 30 years. So we've seen that pass through the Legislative Assembly, and that is extremely important. Of course, there are those real hardliners who believe that life should actually mean life, but there are also those who believe in the rehabilitative process and believe that a person should not be incarcerated, should not be locked away for the rest of their lives, and they should be given an opportunity at some point in time under supervision to be able to get back in mainstream society. The Court of Appeals winter session, and this session starts this week as well. What else do we have here? Project Future Committee to implement the EY report, and we see where a committee has been appointed to oversee that, and that will be led by the Deputy Governor. So Mr. Manderson will chair the Project Future Steering Committee. We also saw where Mrs. Mary Rodriguez, was appointed to lead that venture as well. We also see the other members as the Cabinet Secretary, Mr. Samuel Rose, Finance Minister Chief Officer, Mr. Ken Jefferson, and I take issue with the fact that they refer to the chance. We also see that the Solicitor General, Ms. Jacqueline Wilson, or her representative will also be on Project Future Committee. Also, Ms. Gloria McPhail Nixon, who's the Deputy Governor's, she's the Chief Officer in the portfolio of the Civil Service. And we also see that we have the Deputy Governor's Strategic Advisor, Mr. Peter Goff, Peter, still around, as appointed. And then we have appointments that will be done by the Premier and a representative of the Cayman Islands Civil Service Association. Again, I believe that instead of having a representative of the Cayman Islands Civil Service Association, that it should specifically be the president of the Cayman Islands Civil Service Association or his nominee. This is a very important committee. I don't think we need to mince words, with it, and I think we need to have the proper representation on that committee because they will be making serious recommendations to the government and to cabinet. So it is extremely important that that is done. I'm told that we have one caller online, so as I've always said, this is your talk show, and we give our callers primary importance on here. So we're going to go straight ahead and take our caller right now. Caller, good morning and welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, O.C. How are you doing, sir?
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm pretty good.
I'm doing pretty fine, sir. Considering the fish poisoning, I don't know if you've ever had it.
Not really. It just ran through my mind as to whether the reason for reducing the life sentences could be an economic reason, especially from UK side. I wonder if you could say how many prisoners would be on life sentence in UK, or reduced, or whatever the case may be. Maybe those that would comply with that requirement. Would you have an idea how many in UK would be on that list?
No idea now, but I can check it out. But what I can say is that the United Kingdom has had a tariff on life sentences for quite a while. And maybe someone in the legal profession, if they're listening in, usually Mr. Steve McPhail listens to the show, they may want to chime in on this. But they have always had a tariff on life sentences. So we see, for instance, 12, 15 years, life sentences, and many of them get out before that. And I believe that the UK recognizes what is happening now, because they're getting a lot of repeat offenders as well, people who have been on life sentences, but the life sentence is only 12 or 15 years, and as a result of that, they repeat. But the UK being in the position that it is in within the European Union, and the human rights issue has to have that. And that is one of the reasons why we were, I shouldn't say forced, but we were required to place a tariff on life sentence here in the Cayman Islands as well, Mr. Tommy.
Well, I just wondered if it was from an economic standpoint to reduce the cost of the prisoners being held or whatever, or something similar to that. As you say, you can get more recidivism if they're not treated in a proper way. Tapping a person on the wrist for a major crime is not solving the problem. I'm not saying that imprisonment is the solution to every crime, but I think it's people ought to know that they have to pay for the crimes they've committed if they so choose to do these crimes. Otherwise, I think we're going to have more crime. We should be extending it now, not reducing it as far as I'm concerned. I'm not saying there may not be a few here that may deserve some consideration, but I just wondered if it could be from the economic standpoint why UK is pushing us to do this.
That could have some underpinnings as well, but I think the primary part of it has to do with human rights. Also, Mr. Thomas, what we need more of here in the Cayman Islands as well is that we need to have more victim impact influence in terms of the courts. We always talk about the criminal, and if they have a lawyer who can argue mitigating circumstances and argue for lighter sentences, they do so. But many times the condition of the victims and the impact that the crime has had on the victim is never taken into consideration.
Yeah. Well, when you're talking about the human rights, I'm not against human rights of people being treated fair, especially by government. But I knew when we introduced the Bill of Rights, we were going to have more bondage than freedom. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas, for calling in. We have two other callers on the line, and we're going to take those callers now. Caller, good morning and welcome to For the Record.
Good morning. It's good to hear you, sir. We missed you, and I'm glad to hear you feeling better.
Thank you very much, Ms. Daphne. Thank you. Nice hearing you, too.
Yes. The subject that I called about was not regarding the reduction in prison sentences, or at least that particular law has been amended, or has certainly the Legislative Assembly has given its approval. Mm-hmm. But I do know that when one thinks of the victims and children who have been left without a father or a mother, or parents who have lost a son. There are many cases where the crime is absolutely so wicked and blatantly, those who committed it, it was like no thought at all of anything human. It was as if they were just wild about what they did, some of the cases. So I am hoping and praying that each of these cases are going to be taken on an individual basis. And this is not going to be something which, just because you spent so many years in there, that you're going to be considered and given that opportunity perhaps of having your sentence reduced drastically.
Mm-hmm. And if I could interrupt there, Ms. Daphne, just to say also, I think in talking personally to some of the members of the Legislative Assembly, there was this whole issue also of whether or not any discretion should be left in the hands of the judge who was imposing the sentence in terms of what it should be, or whether or not it should be prescribed.
Thank you. I know that you do have other callers in the line, but before I hang up, I want to say what a privilege and pleasure it has been during the month of October to be participating in the various functions that were planned for seniors. It was one fantastic month, and the Department of Children and Family Services, I am telling you, they they just pulled every string and pulled out all the stops, and we just had a wonderful time. And it is as if many of the seniors simply seem to have gotten a new lease on life. Every function was, enjoyable. But I tell you, on I think it was Wednesday night last when they had the seniors bash at the Marriott. There were people there who were dancing to the Munzie boat sound and all the other ones, and some even with a walking stick in their hand. It was absolutely beautiful, and it was really truly something to be remembered. So. Anyway, I may call back on something else, but for the time being, let you get to the other callers on the line.
Certainly, Ms. Daphne. Thanks very much, for your call as well.
Bye.
We have other callers. One more caller. Caller, good morning and welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, O.C.
Good morning, Mr. Devil. How are you?
I've been praying for you, so I'm glad you're back there.
Thank you very much. And we've spoken several times on the phone as well. You've always call in and see how I'm doing and everything, and give me a few jokes as well.
Yeah. Well, I must tell you, you were well represented while you were off. Dawn on the rest of the staff done a fantastic job.
Certainly, and I'm extremely thankful for them as well.
And based on talking a little bit what Daffy just said, this is the first year I attended the senior functions, and I was very impressed with it. In the past, I would kind of hesitate to attend them because I've been getting some cut eyes.
Was that because you look too young or what?
I went to the corruption conference first part this year, and I registered. Seniors could register free. And when I got to the first day, didn't find my name or my tag, but they gave me a tag. And the next day I went back then, that tag had dropped off, so I asked them for another one. And so you paid for today too? I said I didn't pay for yesterday, no? So you're a senior? I said, I believe so, I'm 80 years old. So
you don't look one bit of course,
Yeah, I had a fantastic time at the Marriott there. Very, very something.
Yeah, one year I attended, and Miss Alverni, of course we referred to her as Awawa. She and we danced up a storm there. I had a difficult time keeping up with her on the floor. She tired me out.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of Christian dance that night.
Well, how do you define Christian dance?
I would like to know, because the pastors would answer too.
Yeah, I saw.
We had a good time. And I want to compliment the people who organized it. And I can try to.
They do a tremendous job. Those young ladies who work in children and family services, a tremendous job, and the amount of attention and detail that they pay to their senior citizens, seniors, is really amazing.
So I'm gonna try to take some more part in, but I was surprised that I had to go the second time for the Arks, which was the first cruise ship that came to the Cayman.
Mm-hmm.
And I jumped up and everybody said, no, I haven't got it right. And I say 1937. And they put me down. I know it was a 7.
Mm-hmm.
And I said 57. Said, no. That's the whole push to cinema. I said, look like I lost my memory. And I came down and searched it up. And somebody won it in the 60s. And I came and searched it up like I had back next night, showed them to call it, and I won it that night. In 1937, the Atlantis came in 4 and 5th part. They were mostly welting, and 3/4 of them came ashore. So I know some of my history are not good as my good friend Steve McField, but I know a little bit of it. So I won that prize. So. Well, okay,
excellent. Well, you know your stuff. When it comes to to tourism as well. Now, we're into getting near to Pirates Week, and that's one of the things that we want to discuss, on the show this morning as well. And how is the activity in your district, and do you see any increase in traffic in the business that you're in during Pirates Week?
No, no, no. Most of the time they come down, them hardly can't put with shots in the move because anytime they come down here, they already got the shots, you understand me?
Mm-hmm.
And plenty of shots are printed with the date on it, the year on it, so you can sell it next year, you understand me? So hardly part week, I don't have no...
Okay, well, if you continue to listen, which I know you will, Mr. Ivan, we're going to talk about that. Hopefully, the counselor will be here. If not, I have some observations in relation to Pirates Week and whether or not we're benefiting enough from the cruise lines when they come here for Pirates Week, and some of the things that could be done if they're not being done, as well. I want to remind you that you're listening to For the Record. I'm your host, Orit Connor. I have no guests in the studio with me at this point in time. And if I don't, then I'm going to rely on you, our listening audience, to keep me active here while we discuss whatever you will want to discuss in the event that we don't have our guest here. We're going to go to the news break at this point in time. I ask you to stay tuned, and we will be back after the news. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. I'm your host, Orit Connor. My guest in the studio with me this morning is MLA Mr. Joey Hugh, representing the District of Georgetown, and he is the counselor in the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism, and Transport. Before I welcome Mr. Hugh, though, I see where there are recommendations that have been made by the Constitutional Commission. I haven't looked at those recommendations yet, but I hope that in tidying up our Constitution, that we will change the terminology counselor and actually change it to junior ministers, which I think is a more appropriate title for ministers, junior ministers, and it's much more identifiably also when you're dealing with people internationally and you're traveling internationally as well. Also, before I go to Mr. Hugh, Mr. Tom Barden called in and we talked about the life tariffs, and he had a question, and I referred to Wikipedia. And we have to rely on that, and there are always updates to that, so it isn't necessarily 100% correct. But it says here that there are currently at least 56 prisoners in the UK who are serving sentences. They have received a whole life tariff through some mechanism in jurisdictions in the United Kingdom. So there are 56 such persons. At least 11 others have since died in prison, while several others have had their sentences reduced on appeal. So there are persons in the UK who are still serving full life sentences. But I'll do some more research on this, and we will discuss it more when we have
cruise lines work with the tour operators. And like I said to you, it is a work in progress. So every year we're looking forward to the following year. How can we improve it? So this year we got the cruise passengers coming. We want to expose them to Pirates Week. We want to try and encourage them to come back next year. And then we also want to show the cruise, the tour operators, that we'll have these numbers during Pirates Week, and we can try and organize set tours that you can go out and visit the heritage sites and things. So, and
of course it's in the best interest of the districts then to ensure that they have quality entertainment and service to offer to those tourists as well. So we don't want to build expectations and not be able to meet them.
That is correct. And we have to be, we have to be considerate of, there's a lot of factors to take into consideration. Is someone going to pay for a tour to go out to the Eastern Districts, for instance, or even to West Bay? and then turn around and pay an entry fee, a large entry fee to get into the event. So we may need to, we'll see how this year goes, and then we'll continue to work and seeing how we can best bring the tourists to Pirates Week when they're here on the cruise ships. So that, I think we're excited about that, and so we'll have a festive feeling all the way around. We'll have the district days going on with all your traditional foods, and nothing changes there. And then in town we'll have a little bit of cultural event going on Cardinal Avenue with a little steel pan music and arts and crafts, and just promoting Pirates Week. We'll probably have a few pirates around there as well. So it is, there was a concern that was this going to detract from the district days, and we feel very confident that it will not. First of all, who wants to go and battle with 20,000 tourists in the middle of town when you can go and enjoy the districts and see people that you haven't seen in a year and chat and maybe catch a game of dominoes, who knows, and then you have a choice of 5 or 6 or 7 different stalls of all variety of foods. So we don't feel that it's going to detract in any way. What it is it's giving our visitors, our cruise visitors, a taste of Pirates Week. And a welcoming and festive environment that they'll put it down in their calendar and say, you know what, we're going to come back next year.
And speaking of foods, we see where the DOE or DOEH has offered food handling courses, and I believe if you have a food stall, you're required to undergo that, undertake that course.
Yeah, that's correct, and we started that as well. It really has. We're trying to evolve the entire festival to where it's that much more organized. People feel that much more confident about coming out and enjoying the event. And that also includes that you feel confident that the food has been prepared in a healthy manner, and it's being stored in a safe manner, so that you can enjoy the food throughout the day and into the evening. So, yeah. Okay.
Folks, I want to remind you that you're listening to For the Record. I'm your host, Orit Connor, and my guest in the studio with me this morning is MLA, Mr. Joey Hugh, who is the counselor for the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. We've been discussing Pirates Week in the Cayman Islands. A lot to discuss on that, but we may venture into other topics as well. We want to talk more about the sister islands, the BRAC. We want to talk about the new aircraft for the BRAC, where we're at. With that, I want to ask questions in relation to the Alexander Hotel and what may or may not be happening in that area as well. So, folks, please stay tuned. We're going to take a break at this point in time, and we'll be back shortly. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. I'm your host, Orit Connor, and my guest in the studio with me this morning is MLA Mr. Joey Hugh, and Councillor in the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. I want to remind you that our phone lines are always open. You're welcome to call. And we want to discuss specifically Pirates Week. But if you have anything that you want to talk about in the tourism sector as well, please feel free to call. Our toll-free number is 1-800-534-8255. You can also call us on 949-8037 or 949-6990. And for those of you who don't like to talk, and they're not too many Caymanians who don't like to talk, but for those of you, those select few who don't like to talk, you can certainly email us at For the Record, one word, For the Record at candw.ky. Mr. Hugh, before we took that commercial break, we were talking about Pirates Week and the new enhancements to Pirates Week and what we can look forward to 2 years to come later on. And I will now invite you to continue that conversation.
Thank you, OC. Yeah, so we are, as I said, we're continuing to try and streamline Pirates Week, if you might, and the budget The Pirates Week office, the team there, they have done a fantastic job because, like anything else, everything else over the last couple of years, the budget has been drastically reduced, and unfortunately, things have not become any more affordable to do. In many instances, the cost of doing things have increased. So I think they're doing an amazing job with the tools that they're being given, and this is why, if you would have noticed, Pirates Week is no longer just 1 week of the year. Throughout the year, they had the mud run, they had the beach football tournament, soccer tournament. They had a music night down at the Ark and at Cayman Bay. So throughout the year, the Pirates Week office will continue to do not only just fundraisers, but events to keep the Pirates Week theme going through the year and fresh in everyone's minds, and so we can build up to the national festival in November. So as we go along, like I said, if there's persons out there who want to get involved in Pirates Week, who would like to help support some of the events, or who have ideas, please feel free to reach out to the Pirates Week's office. It's not a huge office. There's only 2 full-time staff there. So they would very much appreciate any help they can get.
Okay. Now, I recall in the past, when you went into businesses, in particular the banks and stuff like that, during the Pirates Week, the staff would always be dressed up in their pirates costume and stuff like that. Do we still continue to get that sort of interaction and involvement from the business community as well?
We do. I think some of the more traditional sponsors have continued to sponsor events, because Pirates Week is not only made up of the Heritage Day, the street dances, and the fireworks. We have, they had a triathlon on Sunday. You have a golf tournament. You have family days. You have the swim. So you have a lot. There's sporting events, other competitions, cultural events going on throughout the entire week. So, and a lot of those have been historically supported and sponsored by companies within the private sector, and they've continued to do that, and we're very thankful. And yeah, they do participate in wearing a Pirates Week T-shirt or perhaps even getting fully dressed up. But we would love to see more of that. There's so many new businesses to the island, so many companies to the island that are not aware of what Pirates Week is and what it does. But it is a one time of the year, if I could say to potential sponsors out there even, it's a one time of the year that you get a captive audience of well over 10,000 people downtown, whether it's for the fireworks or for the parade. I know that we serve well over, 40,000 people for the entire week, if you count all of the district days and the 2 weekends in Georgetown. So we want to encourage the private sector out there to come out this Pirates Week, have a look around and see, and think. We're open as well to people that may have suggestions and ideas, in particular the sponsors. So if you see something, come out and give us a call and say, hey, this would be great.
Yeah, because we always get the businesses saying, and the Chamber of Commerce, of course, and you being a past president of the Chamber of Commerce, we should shop locally, we should participate locally. So at the same time, the opportunities may be out there. You got to get out there and see it. I'm told that we have one caller who has rejoined us, so we're going to take that caller now. Caller, good morning and welcome back to For the Record.
Good morning again to you, and of course, good morning to Councillor Jody Hugh.
Good morning.
Morning, ma'am.
Thank you. Actually, we're on the subject of Pirates Week. I'm sure you're not, you're aware of what my feelings are about the name. But the Pirates Week magazine, which features 7 children on the front cover, underneath with the skull, is to me totally inappropriate. I believe that a lot of hard work is going into trying to get the festival up and going, but we've had a situation here in the recent days where a child was murdered. Pirates are known for their murderous lives. They're sea robbers, they're thieves, they're rapists. All those things are associated with pirates. This is one of the reasons why I don't believe that this is the way that we should spend a whole week, although I know many of the individuals who attend want to go to the various districts for Heritage Day and so on. Somebody has to have the gumption and the guts to say, this is not what we want to celebrate. We used to, when I was a young girl, and even in my teens, I think, we used to commemorate Emancipation Day. When we remembered the slaughter and we remembered what happened with slaves, and then finally there came Emancipation Day and we celebrated it. It was something to celebrate only one day. What happened to that day of commemoration for the ending of the slave trade? I have no idea. One day only. We picked up, I think back in the mid 1970s or whatever, decided to have this week in September, I believe it was, when things were very, very slow, and you wanted to attract tourists here. This did not do what it was hoped it would do, and that was to draw a huge crowd during those very lean months. I've managed condos, so I am aware of this. You saw a trickling of additional tourists come to the island. But the thing about it is, and I'm not prude, I'm not someone who's naive. I'm not in any way so backwards that I understand that there has to be progression, there has to be advancement. But if anyone can tell me what's moral, what's progressive, what's uplifting, what's Christian, what is beneficial in celebrating pirates, then let me know. Children should not be featured on a magazine for pirates. We should not have those ugly big black dicks, I think they're called, stationed in town. For what? What does it do for Cayman to see those things in and around Georgetown? They need to be taken down and smashed up and thrown wherever. But it does no good for the image of Cayman. I am not a stupid woman. I know we need to do everything we can to promote tourism. Pirates Week at this point in time should not be something where we pull in children and teenagers and get them into this frame of mind that it's okay to celebrate criminals, because that's all pirates were. So I'm saying somebody needs to say, listen, we have something to celebrate. We can have a week of celebration, and it simply can be Cayman's Heritage Week. What's wrong with us walking around town, whether it's in the banks, trust companies, post office, stores, wherever, but we're dressed in traditional Cayman attire. Men, women, I mean, with your hats, the way that we dressed years and years ago, something that we are proud of, something that we can pass on to our children and say, listen, this is who we were.
But caller, you don't deny the fact that piracy, is a part of our heritage to the extent that, based on our location within the Caribbean, that we happen to be a part of that history. And I understand, what you're saying, and I would question whether or not Pirates Week, despite the fact that that's what we call it, Pirates Week, that the focus is only on piracy.
It is mainly on piracy. And that is something we should try to eliminate, not advance, not celebrate. Where is our traditional heritage? What about the way we dressed as women and men before?
But the districts get an opportunity to highlight all of those things as well. So there's a little bit in it for everyone, caller.
It's not the focus. We focus too much on the pirates. For instance, look at the cover of this magazine.
Mm-hmm. I have it right in front of me.
I see one little boy there and a little girl in the back. They have the traditional, what I would call traditional Cayman dress on. What is wrong with that? What is this thing about pirates that we need to celebrate? All I'm saying to you is, and we're not going to change it this November 2014, but we have something which is worth celebrating, and it's not pirates. I mean, there's a lot of things in our history that we know goes with Cayman's history. But Cayman just happened to be some of the islands in the West Indies where pirates stopped.
Okay, caller, I want to thank you for for that input. I ask you to leave us there, and I'm going to give Councillor Hugh an opportunity to respond if he wishes to.
Sure. No, I thank the caller for the call. She has spoken to me on a couple of occasions as well, and she feels very strongly about it. We have. It is a very difficult decision to make. There was a debate about it a couple of years ago, I think. But I tend to try and focus on the fact that, as I said, we are celebrating where we came from to where we are, the challenges that we had. And she spoke about emancipation, and those are other real things as well. The fact is that the Pirates Week name is a marketable name, and it has now evolved to the point where, like I said, we have an upswing in air arrivals during that time because people come to visit friends and family during this time. We're getting tourists now. We have been, over the last year, the Pirates Week office has attended the Gasparilla Festival, which is another pirate theme festival in the U.S. They've attended a convention in Tampa. So we are taking this internationally to attract persons to come down. And at the end of the day, the message is that this is where we came from at the end of the week. And this year, for the first time, I'd like to publicly thank Governor Helen Kilpatrick, as she will participate this year in the finale for the first time. And I think well over 10 years that we've had a real governor participate. And so at the end of it, the police, the guard of the day, capture the pirates and free the governor, and we return back to normalcy. So it is a journey through where we have the invasion on one weekend, and on the following weekend we capture the bad guys and we put them away, and life goes on. So I also, and like I said, that's where we tend to focus on ensuring that message has been portrayed.
And those who argue for political correctness, for instance, we see the huge debate taking place in the United States in relation to sports teams that have been named, and we see the big fight with the Washington Redskins, for instance, and they have stood their ground on that, to a certain extent.
And I know that there is a huge movement for and continued support for Cayman Thanksgiving, which I know you have played an integral role in the past of getting it off the ground and getting it established in our calendar, and that's coming up in December. I think it kicks off to the end of November, and there again is another opportunity for us locally to celebrate our heritage, our past, and all the things that we need to be thankful for, and so I think we have the basis covered in that sense, and but I listen to the call every time, and I she has very strong feelings.
Thus, we'll be back shortly. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. I'm your host, Orit Connor, and my guest in the studio with me this morning is MLA Mr. Joey Hugh, who represents the District of Georgetown, and he is the counselor in the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. We have always been told by the UK that we should look to diversify our economy in such a way that we're not solely dependent on tourism or the financial services. But those are the two areas that's where we're best at, financial services, and we're good at tourism. Despite the fact that our natural resources are limited, we don't have mountains where you can climb, even though we have the bluff in the Brack. We don't have mountains, we don't have rivers, but we have our beautiful oceans, our beautiful white sandy beaches, and we do those things well. And as long as there is a market for it, and we ensure that there's a market for it by providing those services, we should continue to do that. So there's lots happening, as far as the tourism industry is concerned in the Cayman Islands. And I think tourism has a bright future in the Cayman Islands as well, Mr. Hugh. Can you tell us some of the things that are going on?
Yeah, thank you, OC, and you are correct. I mean, we have over the last year, let me just start with this, in meeting with other ministers and meeting other leaders of state throughout the Caribbean, everyone is asking us, how do we do it? Everybody's struggling. People are paying airlines. One island said they have to write one of the airlines $1 million every year.
Subsidize them, yeah.
Subsidize them $1 million every year just to fly into that island. And, we have airlines fighting for gateway opportunities to come into the Cayman Islands. So we're very fortunate. We're poised in a very good position where our proximity to the U.S., our safety record, our pristine beaches, our beautiful coral reefs, the diving is a huge, makes up almost 30% of our tourists.
Our friendly people.
And most importantly, our friendly people, which interacts with safety as well. So we talk about the Cayman kind, and we want to push that. Cayman kind is everyone. So many, you are either jointly or individually supportive of either the financial services or tourism in the Cayman Islands. There's no two ways about it. It doesn't matter what you do. The reason we have the large, beautiful supermarkets and the choice of products in those supermarkets is because of tourism. Those supermarkets couldn't survive on the 50,000 people here year round, and they couldn't carry the amount of product they carry on 50,000 people year round. Our conveniences of gas stations and all the other luxuries that come with it, the spectacular restaurants that we have to eat in. These are all attributed to financial services, to tourism, our two main pillars of the economy. So we are all dependent on them in some way, shape, or fashion. Whether you're in telecommunications or whether you're a landscaper, it doesn't matter. You are dependent on them in some way, and the trickle-down effect. And so it's important for us to continue to promote Cayman kind and what it means. Whether you're a Caymanian born, fifth generation, first generation, or a recent lucky recipient of Caymanian status, Cayman kind is what built this country, and that's the one thing we have to hold on to, and the safety of it. And so we continue to grow in numbers. Again, like I said, we've had a record-breaking year so far. The summer has been amazing. That's where we've seen the most growth, both in cruise and overnight tourism. And going into this season, we continue to work on the airport development as one of the main issues that we have, overcrowding at the airport. So we should soon be seeing a temporary, very, very nice temporary structure being erected at the departure area of the airport that could hold over 100 passengers. So we'll be able to relieve some of the pressure on the departure side. We hope to increase with the implementation of outgoing immigration at the ticket counters. We hope to decrease the amount of space required for immigration and increase the number of outgoing security checks so that we can process people through in a much more expedient manner. We have also, people will have noticed a little addition on the arrival side. We have constructed a in-transit lounge so that whether it's from the Cuban flights or through the BRAC or whatever, we can process in-transit customers through there and relieve some of the pressure on the incoming flights on the arrival side for immigration and customs. The BRAC we redeveloped this year to include a checked baggage screening area and the equipment for that. So if we route flights through the BRAC that are in transit, we can do all of that in Cayman BRAC and then just put them through the in-transit lounge so they don't have to go through and crowd the arrival halls, customs and immigration in Grand Cayman.
And that helps you to meet your international obligations.
And that helps us to meet the international obligations in Cayman BRAC. So we can start to put the Cuba flight through there, maybe even some Jamaica flights, who knows, wherever we see in-transit traffic happening. We're talking to to airlines as well about continuing to develop the Central South American market, and that may become good in transit business as well. So we continue on the short term improvements, and we are well on track on the more medium to longer term improvements, redevelopment of the airport, the physical structure. We should see construction of that begin in the second quarter of next year. We are in the process. I think news should be released this week on the awarding of the engineering and architectural contract for the airport. Great. And then we'll go through that process and then into the tendering process, and hopefully by the middle of next year we will see picks in the ground and shovels in the ground and the real work beginning on the medium to long-term expansion of the airport. And
we're hoping, with the tendering of those contracts and everything else, that we will see lots of local involvement in terms of the construction and the renovation.
And that is important to us as well, is to ensure that as much as that work can remain local. And we continue to work. I must say that the construction industry have been very respondent to us. We continue to meet with them and talk about the issues facing locals in that industry. We are working feverishly as a government to implement the Builders Bill, which will help to regulate that industry a lot more and make sure that everyone is in line with their pension, insurances, their licenses, their qualifications. And so all of these things are being done to try and help and protect and encourage the training and the involvement of Caymanians in that industry as well. So with the airport, we realize that the numbers are coming. We realize we have the Kimpton being built, other hotels being proposed, both in 7 Mile Beach and in the Eastern Districts. And so we are also working very hard to start the Georgetown revitalization and immediately the road works, the road circuit surrounding it, increasing some of the lanes, creating new roads, trying to create block systems through the northern side of Georgetown, all in an effort to be prepared for the amount of for the increase in tourism and traffic. And as we all know, we are currently in the environmental impact assessment stage of the cruise berthing facility. We should expect a report back on that in the first quarter of next year. Most of the work, including the traffic study, because this is the environmental impact assessment, not only dealt with the ocean and the topography and things and the floor of the ocean, but also the effects it will have on Georgetown itself and the traffic and the traffic flow and the foot fare, etc. So that part of it, I think, is all but complete. We are now monitoring the currents and the ocean floors and the winds during this northwester season, and then we should have a report back early next year that we can go to the public with. And I got to keep saying this, OC, that this is the first time in all of the processes that have happened that the environmental impact assessment will be the intellectual property of the Cayman Islands government.
Excellent. So
we have it physically to begin with, and then we have all rights to publish it. So this will be the first time that we actually own that intellectual information, and we can put that out to the public. We will then go one more round of public consultation on that, and should there not be any glaring issues or aspects that we cannot mitigate in that report, then we will move into the tendering side phase of the construction of the ports.
And of course, Councillor Hugh, with all that is expected in the tourism sector, all of the enhancements that we're looking about, all of the growth, in order for us to ensure that that happens and that it is sustained, we also have to get a grip of crime in the Cayman Islands as well. That is extremely important. The Cayman Islands has always been known as a jurisdiction where people are safe, but we are hearing instances of, guest homes, hotels, being robbed, people's travel documents being taken and everything. And I want to say kudos to the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service. We see here where the cops have netted the Tortuga rum suspects, based on a description that was made in terms of a robbery. That was a brazen robbery that took place. And those are the things that we need to get a grip on in the Cayman Islands. We need to control it, and we need to ensure that those criminals, those persons who perpetrate these types of crimes, are taken off the street, because they are basically a menace to society.
That is very important, and you know, we just recently I brought a motion to the Legislative Assembly to increase the penalties on burglaries where persons are affected, whether they're in the home or otherwise, that it could be treated as what we call aggravated burglary. Prior to that, it was a simple burglary unless they had a weapon. So we want to send a clear message out that, you know, this government in particular want to take a very tough stance on crime, and we're willing to implement the sentences to go with that. But on the other hand, and I have a meeting this week with some individuals, we recognize that I don't think that it's all attributed to the difficult circumstances many of us find ourselves in this recession. I think there's also the issue of lack of rehabilitation and lack of early intervention in some of our younger people. And for me, it is just as important for us to be strong in the courts, to be strong with the police, to put people behind bars. And one of my reasons for putting people behind bars for longer sentences is in hopes that we will have a very strong rehabilitation program, and that they're in there long enough to become fully rehabilitated
and benefit from that.
And benefit from it. And there are options for them if they get through that program quicker to get back out into society. But we've got to make sure that they are there long enough, that they are rehabilitated properly to enter back into society as a productive member of the community. And so that is one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is we can fit the entire Cayman Islands in an NFL stadium or a soccer stadium. We can fit everyone in this island in a stadium. We as a country, as a people, have got to get together and say we will not tolerate it anymore. Even if it's your nephew, your niece, your son, your daughter, your aunt, or your uncle, somebody knows who these people are.
Mm-hmm. And when you look at some of the items that are stolen other than cash, there has to be a market out there, someone who's prepared to pay on the cheap for those things that these people steal.
Yeah, and we got to be aware of our surroundings. We got to be aware of the people that are staying in our apartments, in our home. We got to keep an eye on our kids, on our relatives, and you know, we have to take a no-nonsense approach. Whether you want to speak to them individually or have a preacher talk to them or report them, you got to do it. And you know, we have mechanisms. As I said, I saw an article last week how many tens of thousands of dollars are unclaimed at Crime Stoppers. So you know, you have that where you call 800 tips, and it's answered overseas. You're assigned a number. It's anonymous, and that information is passed on, and you're given a number, an ID number, and you can communicate any way you want to communicate with them. And then if that person is arrested or the goods recovered or whatever, then you are eligible for that reward if you want it.
If you see, sorry.
But the fact is that number is, you know, you can call that number and your identity will be protected. So we have avenues for people to report these things, and we just got to encourage and encourage the entire country as a people, as a nation to take a stance against this crime.
Yep, if you see something, say something. We're going to go to our final break at this point in time. Folks, I want to remind you that you're listening to For the Record. I'm your host, Dorrit Connor, and my guest in the studio with me this morning is MLA Mr. Joey Hugh, who represents the District of Georgetown and who is the counselor in the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism, and Transport. Please stay tuned. We'll be back shortly. Back to For the Record. We're on the final segment of our show this morning. I have in the studio with me MLA Mr. Joey Hugh, who represents the District of Georgetown and who is also the counselor in the Ministry of District Administration, tourism and transport. I'm told that we have 2 callers online, so we're going to take those callers now. First caller, good morning and welcome to For the Record.
O.C., good morning. Is it me now?
Yes, it's you now. Good morning.
Boy, it is good to hear you back there too.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
And you did have the number one individual in person of Donna Bush to fill in for you.
That's correct. She did an excellent job.
Yeah, and good morning to Mr. Hugh.
Good morning.
Yes, I want to speak a little bit about the tourism again because that is in my blood.
Yes, ma'am.
This is probably, I think this is like the 5th time now that I'm mentioning this about seniors like myself and older that would like very much to be involved in the UCCI training stuff there. Although we have all the experience already, our interest is that we would get a little certification on some of the subjects there. And I do remember Mr. Hughes saying, okay, they were considering or working whatever on doing some things like that for the seniors, yes. And I do remember quite clearly where he said that we would have the straw hats and we don't need a straw hat, Mr. Hughes. We need to get where we can see people inside the buildings. You understand what I'm saying, sir?
Yes, ma'am. So let me clarify. Did you, with the UCCI thing, are you saying that you would like opportunities to help with training or provide some, or get some training, some certification?
If we could get certified in that instance, in that situation of help with the training, yes. But if not, we could also do like refreshers courses.
Okay.
Because I for one, which is much younger than a lot of the other older tourism. I mean, people that built tourism, especially on the West Bay Road. I myself went straight from laundry right straight through to everything else.
Yes, ma'am.
But I have no certification in this because those times we never had these type of opportunities.
Yes, and have you ever done the Pride course, ma'am?
No, sir.
Okay. Would I be able to would they be able to take her information after the...
Yeah, we can ask Susan to take her information, and Mr. Hugh will be in touch with her to talk more about it.
Absolutely, yes, certainly.
So caller, Mr. Hugh is going to get your information from Susan if you will leave that with her, and he'll be in touch with you on that. Very good, very good. Next caller, please. Caller, good morning and welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, Mr. O'Connor. Good morning to Emily Hugh.
Morning, sir. How are you?
All right. Glad you're back, Mr. O'Connor.
Thank you very much.
And you're doing a very fantastic job. I hope you move to talk today, so you're doing an even better job.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think I have 3 quick questions. I don't want to say no comment because I believe this government is not doing a good job. That's my belief. And I don't see no hope for delivering any of the promises. Over 2 years now passed already. But I have 3 questions to the MLA, you. Number 1, if he still believe that the Ritz-Carlton employ enough Caymanians, as he stated before, that from 1,000 employees, there is about 30 or 25 Caymanians working in Ritz-Carlton. Is he still believe that? Number 2 question is, recently the Ministry of Sport gave $50,000 to somebody who robbed the Cayman Island taxpayers, $50,000. What information he can give the general public, and when this money will be returned back, or when the minister will be held responsible about that. Number 3, and the last thing is, what Mr. You done for Georgetown voters? Thank you.
Okay, caller. I will have Mr. Hugh, answer that. But just before he does that, I would say to the caller also, do you agree with the the editorial in the Caymanian Compass that talks about, speaks to the fact that the person who was doing the PR work, the company that was doing the PR work here in the Cayman Islands for that McGee Classic, whether or not, and the Compass has stated that they shouldn't repay it because due diligence should have been done by the Cayman Islands government, whether or not he agrees with that as well. But Mr. Hugh, I'll give you an opportunity to answer his 3 questions.
Thank you. I know the caller has, I don't know where the caller gets his information. He obviously has a lot more than I do. I don't. But in the past, in my last, I think he's referring to about over a year ago when I was here on this show, perhaps, that I referenced that we had just met with the Ritz and they were at about 31% employment. So I don't know what their total employment is, but they were at that stage. We have met with all of the hotels again last month. Minister and I took a day and went and met with all of them. And we have once again emphasized our desire to see more Caymanians in their workplaces. We saw and met a lot of very successful Caymanians there. We saw a lot of the programs that are happening in there for Caymanians. Again, the reports are that majority of the hotels are over 30% and hover between 30 and 40% local Caymanian employment. We had some of the smaller hotels in 7 Mile Beach are as high as 80%, which was fantastic. Of course, we would love to see, which is not physically possible, I don't believe, but we would love to see 100% Caymanians there. But instead of, I think, for the general public's sake, this government has worked very hard with trying to work with the private sector. You would have seen calls by the Premier for persons to hire more Caymanians, for persons to take chances with Caymanians that have been rehabilitated and released and had a pass. I think that was just in the papers last week. But we've also taken a step further to introduce, after all of my life, I've heard people talk about this hospitality school. And to correct the caller as well, it hasn't been over 2 years, it's just been over 1 year that we've been in office. And we managed to get that hospitality school going with 25 very ambitious young Caymanians.
And the Ritz-Carlton
is a big part of it. Yes, that's where a lot of the practical is being done. And I also, spoke with some of the feedback we got back from the hotels is that we are seeing more and more in all of our businesses. Anyone that runs a business in Cayman will tell you that they're getting more and more quality Caymanians in their businesses, and including in jobs that previously were not attractive to Caymanians. We are seeing young men and young women taking those positions and doing a very good job of it as well. But we are also from the hotels, we're understanding that the kitchen there is a lot of young Caymanians in the kitchen with an interest in the culinary arts. And we do know that we have many away on scholarships. And if we're going to speak about the Ritz-Carlton in particular, because he brought it up, they actually do a scholarship every year as well for someone to go off and train in hospitality. And not
into For the Record, I'm your host. I've been your host, Orit Connor, and my guest in the studio with me this morning is MLA Mr. Joey Hugh, who represents the District of Georgetown. And you have heard him talk about how he ably represents that district, as well. He's also the counselor in the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. So, Mr. Hugh, I'd like to give you an opportunity to wrap up and to cover any points that you may have missed.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Again, just saying we're entering into the high season for tourism. We're well into the first week of November, and we're expecting the numbers to continue to climb. We continue to ask for the country's patience as we get the airport going, as we work through the port cruise berthing facility, and we can only assure persons that whatever we do will be transparent in that issue. And again, I have to continue to say, we all work for tourism. It affects us all in one way or the other, so we should all embrace Caymankind. We should all take a stance against crime, whether it's in our communities or whether it's on the 7 Mile Beach. It does not matter. It affects all of our qualities of life, and we should all take the time to be aware of our surroundings and participate in our communities. So with those short words, I'd like to say another good morning to everyone out there that is tuned in after, and please be safe and enjoy the cool weather.
And I want to say yesterday, while I was watching NBC in New York for the look at the start of the New York Marathon, and the Cayman Islands commercial came on, and it brings chills through my body when I see the Cayman Islands advertised like that, and you hear of the Cayman Islands. It brings delight to my heart when I hear questions about the Cayman Islands or answers about the Cayman Islands on shows like Jeopardy. It goes to show you that we are on the international scene.
Yes.
And
we want to keep that positive.
Yes,
we don't want things to happen that we start to see on the New York news or anywhere else, negative stories about the Cayman Islands.
Exactly. And that commercial, well timed. The audience at that time of the morning,
exactly,
great. So those are good things that are happening, for the Cayman Islands. So, Mr. Hugh, I want to again, thank you for being here this morning. We look forward to more and more of this as we continue to see things develop here in the Cayman Islands. Folks, again, I want to remind you that the Auto Spa, for the record, has been brought to you by the Auto Spa on Godfrey Nixon Way. You can stop by Radio Cayman or the Auto Spa and ask for your $5 savings coupon for your next full service wash. I also want to remind you that they now offer a valet service at the Auto Spa, which means that your vehicle will be picked up and given a full service and delivered back to you within the hour. The valet service is fully insured, so you need not worry about the liability in relation to your vehicle. Also, it is offered in the immediate downtown Georgetown area, Cayman Bay area as well. I also want to mention the Mrs. Carrie Bush, the wife of the leader of the opposition, who had an accident over the weekend and who's overseas now receiving medical treatment, and to wish her a speedy and full recovery, and to say that she continues to be in our thoughts and in our prayers. And finally, I want to say to you that we are our brothers and our sisters' keepers. There is always someone within our reach or within our sight who is not as fortunate as we are, and I ask you to hold out a helping hand to them. We are our brothers and our sisters' keepers. I want to thank you for allowing For the Record to come into your homes, into your automobiles, into your offices. For those of you who have the opportunity to listen to For the Record while you're in your offices, because we do have important things to say, important information to give out to you. Sometimes it may affect the very business that you're working for. So listening to For the Record will give you that information that you need. We ask you to continue to listen to Radio Cayman, which is owned and operated by you. Thank you. Have a great day.